There is a sound that once shook empires, a sound so dangerous, so untamable, that those in power tried to erase it from history altogether. They feared it not because it destroyed, but because it awakened. This sound is not a weapon in the way we think of swords or guns. It is not made of iron or fire. It is a code, an activation, written into the fabric of your being, a frequency carried in every cell of your body. It is the reminder that you are more than flesh and bone, more than a name or a story. For centuries, it was silenced. For centuries, humanity was told to seek power outside of themselves in gods on pedestals, in kings on thrones, in systems that demanded obedience. But the truth never vanished. It survived where no empire could reach. In the human heart, in the breath, in the voice, and the secret is this: you need only 55 seconds to touch it. Just under a single minute of sustained sound, and something begins to shift. The chatter of the mind falls away. The body reorganizes itself. Energy, long dormant, stirs again. Proof doesn't come in theory, it comes in sensation. This journey is both ancient and new. It is mystical, but it is also scientific. It is hidden in Egyptian temples, yet echoed in the latest studies of neuroscience. And tonight, you are invited to step inside it, not as a spectator, but as a participant in a story that has been waiting millennia for you to remember. Long before we built skyscrapers or fired rockets into space, humanity discovered a very different kind of technology. It wasn't made of steel or wires. It didn't run on oil or electricity. It was older, deeper, woven into the very bones of the earth itself. That technology was sound. In the ancient temples of Egypt, the priests didn't simply pray. They didn't gather in those vast stone halls just to whisper words of devotion. They built those temples as if they were instruments, massive resonating chambers, carved with precision, aligned to the stars. Every pillar, every archway, every stretch of limestone was positioned so that a single chant could echo and multiply until the air itself seemed to tremble. Imagine standing inside Karnak, where the ceiling rises like a stone sky, and the moment a low vowel rolls from a priest's throat, it doesn't just hang in the air. It grows, it fills your chest, rattles your bones, and begins to rearrange something you can't quite name inside you. The ancients believed these sounds were not symbols of the divine. They were the divine in action. They didn't ask the universe for favors. They instructed it through vibration. In India, that same wisdom appeared in a different language, Nada Brahma, the universe's sound. The sages there knew that mantras were not empty syllables. They were keys, designed to unlock hidden layers of reality. When repeated with focus, they shifted the body, the mind, and even the environment. Farmers believed a single chant could bless the soil. Healers used vibration to mend what was broken. Leaders spoke words that carried more than inspiration. They carried coherence, the invisible rhythm that steadied the hearts of entire communities. Think about that. Today we program machines with binary code, ones and zeros. But thousands of years ago, our ancestors believed they could program matter itself with vowel codes, with frequency. Where we see chaos, they saw patterns. Where we saw illness, they saw energy that could be tuned back into harmony. This wasn't superstition. It wasn't just religion. It was a kind of alchemy sound. Alchemy, a way of taking the raw noise of existence and shaping it into order, healing, abundance. To them, a human being was not a helpless creature at the mercy of nature. A human was the conductor of a living symphony, and the voice was the baton. If sound was once the technology of creation, a tool to heal and to command, then the obvious question rises: why don't we use it anymore? Why did something so powerful, so universal, vanish from our collective memory? The answer isn't an accident. It isn't that history simply forgot. It was taken. Imagine a world where every individual could tune their own energy field, heal their own body, and align their mind with the rhythm of the cosmos, all without a priest, without a king, without a government to tell them how. A world where no one could be manipulated by fear because they carried within themselves a code stronger than any decree or doctrine. That world existed, and it terrified those who craved control. A person who masters their own vibration cannot be subdued. They cannot be taxed into submission or threatened into obedience. They step outside the reach of fear, and for empires built on fear, that was a dangerous problem. So began what some call the Great Silencing. Knowledge of sound alchemy was not lost to time. It was buried. Rituals were dismantled, temples destroyed or converted, and teachings reduced to empty words, stripped of their vibration. What had once been a living, breathing practice was recast as myth, legend, superstition, and little by little, humanity forgot. But it wasn't just the outer world that was rewritten. The real conquest happened inside. People were trained to believe that power was always somewhere else, up in the heavens, with a distant god, or locked inside institutions, or guarded by those claiming divine authority. The voice of the individual was downgraded to noise. Spirituality was no longer a direct experience, but a belief handed down, second-hand, from those who claimed to know better. It was a strategy, as meticulous as it was effective. By severing us from our own frequency, we became dependent on priests to intercede, on rulers to govern, on systems to protect us, and the memory of what we already carried within the sacred sound that could ignite the fire serpent and expand consciousness was labeled dangerous. Even for Bill, this was the hidden code of Thoth, not because he meant to deny humanity, but because he knew what would happen if it fell into the wrong hands. He encrypted it inside symbol, myths, and metaphors, so only those truly searching would find it. But empires knew the danger too, and they called it heresy. They called it blasphemy. They called it madness. Anything to make us afraid of our own resonance. The truth is simple, and it is infuriating. The most direct path to sovereignty was stripped from us, not because it didn't work, but because it worked too well. Picture a desert night in ancient Egypt. The air is cool, the sand still radiating the heat of the day. A group of initiates walk silently into a temple dedicated to Sekhmet, the lioness goddess of transformation. From the outside, it looks like solid stone, but inside, the design is nothing short of miraculous. The walls and ceilings are carved so precisely that they hold sound the way a chalice holds wine. The priest leads them deeper, into a chamber where no light flickers, except the glow of torches pressed into the walls. The air feels heavy, charged, as if it's waiting. One word is spoken, a vowel stretched out into the silence, and suddenly, the chamber itself begins to sing back. The initiates aren't just hearing sound, they're inside it. This wasn't a ceremony of decoration, it was a precise technology, a sonic tuning fork for the soul. When that sound was repeated, a vibration began to resonate at the base of the spine. They called it the serpent fire, what we now call Kundalini. The latent energy coiled within every human being. As the chant deepened, that serpent stirred. It rose, slowly, winding its way upward through the spine, igniting each energy center it touched. First came the warmth, a subtle heat spreading in the belly and chest, then the shiver, a trembling that rippled up the back, and finally, a force, like a current of lightning, climbing into the skull, opening perception wider than the eyes could ever see. To the outside world, nothing had changed, but inside those stone walls, consciousness was no longer bound to the body. The ancients believed that when this fire was lit, the veil between worlds thinned, dimensions overlapped, time lost its grip. An initiate could step beyond the linear march of hours into the eternal present, the place where spirit and matter converge. Some texts whispered that in this state, a person could bend reality itself, shift the perception of time, glimpse futures not yet born, or recall memories buried deep in the soul's lineage. For the Egyptians, this was not a metaphor. It was the very purpose of their temples, to awaken the godlike potential within the human form. By remembering in the true sense, passing the vibration back through the heart, they became more than pawns in the game of life. They became conscious players, able to command their own energy, their own destiny. The fire serpent was not a symbol of fear, it was the living proof that divinity resided within. And once awakened, nothing, not priests, not kings, not even the boundaries of space and time could keep it contained. For centuries, humanity lived as though this knowledge had been erased forever. But the truth is, sound cannot be destroyed. It is part of the very fabric of existence, woven into the vibration of every cell, coded into the DNA of life itself. You cannot erase what you are, you can only forget, and that is why the secret never vanished. It waited, quietly, inside us, patient, dormant, like a seed lying under the soil, appearing dead until the rains come. The ancients knew this, and they spoke of it not as something to be found outside in old scrolls or buried temples, but as something that lived within, something you could recall in a single breath. That sound was not complicated. It wasn't an incantation in a lost language or a phrase guarded by priests. It was the simplest, most fundamental vibration of all existence. I am. Now, before the mind rushes to dismiss it as nothing more than affirmation, pause the I am. You whisper when you say, I am tired, or I am afraid. is not the same. Those phrases carry the frequency of prison, a statement of limitation. They declare not who you truly are, but who you've been told you must remain. The true I am is not a description, it is a declaration. It is the spark of existence itself, spoken from the core of your being, reverberating through every fiber of the cosmos. When you chant it with presence, not from your head, but from the totality of your being, something stirs. A cascade of bioenergetic events begins. The field around your body, chaotic and fragmented by stress, suddenly reorganizes into coherence. Your nervous system receives the signal that you are safe. Fear loosens its grip. The body exits survival mode and re-enters creation. This is why the ancients protected it, why they whispered it only in the sacred chambers. Because I am is not just sound, it is the password back into your own divinity. It reminds you that you were never small, never separate, never powerless. It's the key to awakening the player within the game, the one who remembers they are not just a piece moving through life, but the one who commands the board. Hope lives here, in the realization that the code was never lost, only silenced. In the truth that your voice, your breath, your vibration is enough. And in the moment you remember, even for a single second, the universe begins to remember with you. When you first hear it, the number seems almost arbitrary. Why 55 seconds? Why not one breath, or a few minutes, or an hour? The ancients were not whimsical in their measurements. They weren't guessing. They knew something about the mind, the body, and the spirit that modern science is only now beginning to confirm. The truth is, the first seconds of chanting are rarely profound. In the beginning, the mind resists. Thoughts intrude. This is strange. I'm not doing it right. What am I going to eat later? That chatter is the ego's last attempt to stay in control, throwing distractions into the path. If you stop there, you never cross the threshold. But if you push through, sustaining the vibration, something begins to change. Around the 30-second mark, the resistance starts to crack. The conscious mind realizes it can't hold on forever. The sound slips past the surface noise and begins sinking into the nervous system. Then, somewhere between the 40th and 55th second, the body receives the full transmission. This is the tipping point, the moment the vibration penetrates the deeper layers where true reprogramming happens. Scientists now call this state heart coherence. It's when the heart, the brain, and the breath fall into rhythm with one another. Instead of jagged, chaotic signals, the heart begins pulsing in smooth, harmonious waves. That signal cascades through the body, telling every cell, you are safe, you are balanced, you can begin to heal. At the same time, the vagus nerve, the great superhighway connecting the brain to the body's major organs, switches on. When stimulated by sound vibration, it acts like a brake on stress. Inflammation lowers, anxiety eases, the body slides out of fight or flight. A quiet strength replaces the background noise of survival. Meanwhile, the brain itself begins to shift gears. The frantic beta waves of everyday stress slow down into alpha, the state of calm focus, and then into theta, the realm of creativity, intuition, and memory. And if you sustain the chant for the full 55 seconds, some practitioners even generate bursts of gamma waves, the highest frequency brainwaves, linked to moments of insight and spiritual oneness. Think about that. What Tibetan monks labor to reach after hours of meditation, you can begin to touch in under a single minute, simply by sustaining the sound of I am. It's not magic, it's not superstition, it's neuroenergetic technology. The ancients didn't need EEG machines or laboratories. They had direct experience, repeated generation after generation, proving what worked. That's why 55 seconds matters. It isn't symbolic, it isn't decorative, it's the exact calibration required to move through layers of resistance into alignment, coherence, and expansion. It is a time portal, one that shifts you from a fractured state of survival into a creative state of being. And once you've crossed that threshold, the world no longer looks quite the same. The beauty of this practice is that you don't have to take it on faith. You don't have to simply hope something is happening. Your body will tell you. It always does. For many, the first sign is subtle. A warmth begins to gather in the palms of the hands or in the soles of the feet. Sometimes it's a tingling, like tiny currents of electricity weaving their way across the skin. At first, you may dismiss it as imagination, but then it grows. The warmth becomes undeniable, the tingling begins to pulse, and you realize this is energy, long stagnant, beginning to flow again. As you continue, the sensation often shifts toward the center of the chest. Around the thymus gland, what the ancients called the seat of spiritual immunity, You may feel a gentle vibration, like the hum of a motor, quietly coming to life. That hum is your heart center opening, your inner sun beginning to burn brighter. It is the signal that love, self-acceptance, and vitality are being restored, cell by cell, breath by breath. Then comes the shiver. It rises from the base of the spine, climbing steadily upward, sending a chill that doesn't feel cold, but electric, cleansing. This is Kundalini stirring, the serpent of fire beginning its ascent, dissolving blockages as it rises, opening channels that may have been locked for years. Each shiver is a release, a letting go of something old. Each surge is your nervous system retuning itself to a higher, clear frequency. Your breath changes too. Suddenly the lungs feel larger, as if they can drink in more life. Breathing slows and deepens without effort. The diaphragm relaxes, the ribs expand, and with each exhale, you feel a weight you didn't know you were carrying leave your body. Breath becomes not just survival, but participation in the rhythm of creation. Even the heart responds. Its rhythm, once erratic and stressed, steadies into a smoother wave. Scientists call it coherence. You may simply feel it as calm strength, a sense that your pulse is not just pumping blood, but broadcasting harmony throughout your body. None of this is abstract. These are physical markers, signs you can feel, measure, and recognize that prove the frequency of IAM is more than philosophy. It is embodied truth. The ancients never asked you to believe, they asked you to remember, and the moment your hands tingle, your chest hums, or your breath expands, you'll know with absolute certainty that you are not imagining, you are awakening. Every light casts a shadow, and when the vibration of IAM begins to burn inside you, it doesn't only illuminate your highest truth, it also exposes everything that has been hiding in the dark. For many, this stage comes as a shock. Instead of only peace, old fears begin to resurface. Childhood wounds you thought you had buried, memories you had forgotten, doubts you believed you outgrew. They come back, knocking at the door of your awareness. Limiting beliefs whisper again. You don't deserve this. This is too good to be true. You will fail. It can feel like regression, as if the practice isn't working, but the opposite is true. This is purification. The vibration of IAM is like turning on a bright lamp in a basement that has been dark for decades. The cobwebs, the dust, the forgotten boxes, they were always there. The light doesn't create them, it reveals them so they can finally be cleared away. Your body might react too. A knot in the stomach, a tightness in the chest, a sudden wave of sadness or anger without an obvious trigger. These are not random discomforts. They are the physical echoes of trapped energy, patterns that have lingered for years. And now, under the pressure of a higher frequency, they rise to the surface, demanding release. The temptation is to resist, to push the feelings back down, to tell yourself you shouldn't feel this way. But healing doesn't come from suppression. It comes from presence. The only task here is to witness, to allow the fear, the grief, the doubt to move through you without clinging to them. Like smoke, rising and dissolving into air, they pass. Once they are seen, this stage is the proof of transformation. The very discomfort you feel is the evidence that the old programming is breaking apart. What no longer matches your new vibration can't stay hidden. It must rise, it must be faced, and then it must dissolve. So if shadows appear, don't mistake them for failure. They are signs of progress. They mean the fire is working. And when the fire purifies, it does not destroy, it liberates. By now, you know the sound. You've felt its resonance in your body, its vibration in your chest, its current along your spine. But here lies a secret. The ancients guarded most carefully. Sound alone is not enough. Chanting, "I am," without presence, is like striking a match and never letting it touch the candle. The flame is real, but it doesn't spread. Words without feeling remain hollow. Frequency without emotion is only half of the equation. The initiates of old called this the alchemical marriage. Sound was the masculine principle, structured, direct, commanding. Feeling was the feminine principle, receptive, magnetic, alive, alone. They could create ripples, but when they united, something greater was born. A third force, a living manifestation. Think of it like a light bulb. The bulb itself is the sound, the structure, the form, but without electricity, it stays dark. Emotion is the current that brings it to life. When you chant "I am," while summoning the feeling of already being whole, already being free, you ignite the current. Suddenly, the sound is no longer repetition, it is embodiment. This is why gratitude, joy, and love are so powerful in the practice, not because they are positive emotions, but because they carry the frequency of fulfillment. They tell the universe, this reality is not something I hope for, it is something I am. And the universe, which always mirrors your state of being, responds with precision. The trap is treating I am like a mantra machine, repeating it over and over without heart, expecting miracles to appear. That is not remembrance, that is superstition. The real work is riskier and braver. To feel peace before the storm passes, to feel abundance before the bank account changes, to feel love before anyone else offers it, to step into the vibration of what you desire as if it is already yours. This is the leap the ancients demanded. This is the alchemy, sound and feeling as one, masculine and feminine in harmony. The word and the fire, when they merge and you stop hoping for change, you become the change. And once you embody it, the reality has no choice but to rearrange itself around you. The true test of any practice is not what happens in the temple or in the silence of your room. The true test is what happens when you step back into the noise of the world. I am is not meant to remain a secret word whispered only in meditation. It is meant to become the vibration you carry into your daily life, into your work, your relationships, your choices, into the small moments that seem ordinary, but which are in fact the stage where your frequency shapes reality. Imagine starting your morning not by scrolling through headlines or reacting to emails, but by centering yourself in the sound of I am. Just 55 seconds and your nervous system resets. You walk into your day calm, coherent, aligned, and suddenly, what might have felt like chaos begins to bend toward harmony. Meetings flow, conversations soften. The energy you bring into the room sets the tone without you needing to say a word. Then, as the day unfolds, you begin to notice synchronicities. The parking space opening exactly when you arrive, a friend calling with the answer you were searching for, a chance encounter that feels too perfect to be random. These are not coincidences. They are the universe, mirroring back the frequency you've chosen to broadcast. The more you practice, the less it feels like effort. I am ceases to be a ritual and becomes your natural state. You no longer reach for it only when you are in crisis. It becomes the ground you stand on, the silent rhythm beneath every action. You move through the world, not as someone grasping for solutions, but as someone who already carries them, and the impact doesn't end with you. The field you emit touches others, family, co-workers, even strangers who simply share your space. Science has shown that one coherent heart can affect the rhythms of people nearby. Your calm becomes contagious. Your clarity can inspire solutions in others without preaching, without persuading. You become a living reminder to those around you of their own potential. This is what it means to live the I am, not to practice it in isolation, but to embody it so fully that it spills over, reshaping your world and the people in it. A hidden sound, once silenced, remembered again, not just in temples of stone, but in the temple of your daily life. In the end, the sound we have explored is not just a word. I am is not a phrase to repeat like a charm. It is a frequency, a doorway, a living identity waiting to be remembered. It is the pulse of your own being, calling you back to yourself. And this journey, this act of remembrance has only just begun. Sound is the first step. Beyond it lies light, and beyond light lies silence, the womb of all creation. Each stage is an invitation to go deeper, to expand further, to reclaim more of what has always belonged to you. But you are not walking this path alone. Around the world, thousands are awakening to the same call, remembering the same code. Every time you chant, every time you breathe I am with presence, you are joining a field of remembrance that grows stronger with every voice. Together, we amplify the signal. Together, we become the choir that no empire can silence. So let this be our moment of connection. If you feel the shift inside you, claim it. Write in the comments, I am, the living remembrance, not as empty words, but as a declaration that you, too, are part of this awakening. The adventure is open before us. The sound has been restored to your throat, to your heart, to your life. And with every breath you take from this day forward, the universe listens and responds.